Who are the real influencers in a meeting? They may not be who you think. Watch this short video to discover 5 things these people do to influence without authority. I'm Bob Wendover. Have you ever looked around a room during a meeting and wondered why a particular person seems to have more influence than even the individual running the meeting, perhaps? Yeah, me too. People listen when these individuals speak. You know, the ideas they offer are adopted more often. People look to them when the issue is difficult as if they will always have a good solution. In the years I've been observing meeting dynamics, here are 5 practices that these people seem to employ in gatherings that enable them to influence others, even though they're not necessarily the person in actual authority. See if you agree. First, they arrive prepared. They've read the pre-meeting materials. They've thought through the options for action in advance. They've considered what obstacles there might be. They've considered who else in the room might be of like mind and who might disagree with what they think is a reasonable solution. Second, they're present. They're not clearing emails or responding to texts while the meeting's going on. You know, they're attentive to the other people in the room, offering encouragement, both verbally and non-verbally. They're actively engaged in the conversation without being overbearing. You know, if a disagreement arises, they're careful to take stock of opposing viewpoints and then typically only offering an opinion if they're asked to do so. Now, third, they're collaborative, but they do so carefully. You know, credit is not their focus. It's been their experience that there's generally credit for everyone. They remain focused on the outcome, which is generally something that requires a team effort, at least team support. They're happy to pitch in, at least within reason. At the same time, they're circumspect about accepting leadership roles. They know that some tasks and projects take a lot more time and effort than others, and they need to maintain a healthy balance, not to mention get their other work done outside of the meeting itself. Fourth, they ask think-ahead questions. You know, these individuals are good critical thinkers who consider the downstream consequences of decisions. As a result, they're more likely to be the one who questions a group decision if they see a red flag about something going forward. Now, they do so respectfully, however, with the purpose of making those people who are thinking about it stop and think about something that perhaps is not being considered. And fifth, they summarize the apparent consensus of the group. These individuals look for patterns and trends during group discussions. And as a result, they're able to summarize where the group seems to be going before others see it in a lot of cases. Now, that said, they're also careful not to be married to the summary since they may have misread something in the process. But if this happens, they remain open to flexing with others' opinions or proposals as long as these are focused on the actual outcome. Ultimately, they know that summarizing tends to move discussions toward decisions a lot faster. Now, none of these practices require the leader's authority. In fact, I've been surprised at times how these individuals appear to be leading the meeting in spite of someone else actually being in charge. But that said, they're discreet enough not to overstep. Of course, all 5 of these practices require the presence of mind to use them at the right time and the self-discipline to remain focused when you're just dying to jump in rather than reserving judgment. Now, ask yourself, how would my authority and outcomes improve if I more actively practice these characteristics? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Bob Wendover.